Hi, Karl.
Hi, Mark.
The Brothers Four have been singing and performing for 55 years now, and there's been 11 Brothers Four. And you've been with the group for the last 5 years. And I think that I joined the group in 1969, and I think one of the most exciting parts about having you as one of the brothers now is that there's a sense of family and a sense of community, not a sense of business, not a sense of we're here to make money, but we're here to make music. And I guess first of all, thank you, and then just get your thoughts about being part of the group.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here. You know, I've been performing for a lot of years, and it's never been my dream to have a life on the road. It never was appealing to me, and because I love to be home. But to have this chance to join with this group that is so established and has such a tradition to it, and then to join it and find out that it's not only enriching musically, but good people to be hanging around with is just delightful. That has been a real gift, a real blessing in my joining in this group. It's been one of the main things that has been fun about it, to find these personalities and people that I can enjoy spending time with.
Great.
Yeah.
And the group came out of the University of Washington, and you grew up in Seattle, and so it was. And you live on Whidbey Island.
Live on Whidbey Island with my wife and 3 kids back in the woods.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be, and life is, with 3 kids and 2 independent sort of careers going on, it's a very busy life.
Sure.
But it's a great place to be, and it's wonderful to be able to take off and be on the road for a week or 2 and go sing and make some music and come back home again. So it's great.
Wonderful. And you've been working for the last 23 years as the musical director at Trinity Lutheran Church up on Whidbey.
I have. Arrived there about the same time as the current pastor, and I direct choirs, I write some music, I arrange some, I lead the band, and sort of oversee the program, help other people survive when they come up to do music, make sure the sound is good, and it's been very enriching. And it leaves me a little time and a little flexibility, really, to do some other things on the side. They've been very gracious about letting me travel and take off to Japan for 5 weeks and things like that. And so it's a great fit for me in my life.
Great. And I talked with you about this when we spent 5 weeks in Japan this last summer, and I talked with you a little bit about it because just before that show, we did a show at Trinity Lutheran, and your first concert with the Brothers Four was 5 years ago, was at Trinity Lutheran, and I was amazed at the differences in sort of just the feeling in the group and the audience, and just that sense of from, boy, is this going to be a great adventure, to just this sense that this is the group now, this is the season situation. And what were your thoughts as you returned back to your home?
It was such a different time heading back out there to sing with you 3 guys this time rather than the first time. One of my enduring memories that first time was before we went on, I was sitting in my office behind the stage area and practicing, and McCoy came back into my office, and I was trying to work out all the chords and remember all the chords for the banjo medley.
Oh, good.
And with not a great deal of success, but I was heading in there anyway, and he just stood in the doorway and laughed, and then he walked away. And this time we went out and we just played, and it was just fun.
Sure.
We just had a good time, and it was fun to look at all those people that I know and realize the support they've given me in the last 4 or 5 years, and the fun they were having being there listening. It was great.
Great. Karl, another thing that I appreciate so much about this time and this configuration is that both on stage when we go out to perform. And also when we're on the road together, there's no place that I'd rather be. I get a sense that there's no place that everybody else that has that same feeling, that in that moment, that's the only place that we want to be. And I really feel like the audiences somehow realize that. And I think that it's made, besides the show stronger, it's also made it richer. And I guess I wonder how you feel about something like that.
I think that's true. I think it's an understanding that I don't think I really had before. I'm not sure that I could have put it into words, but I think it's essential, and I've taken it into other areas of performing that I do and talked to other people about that, because as we've had these different conversations over the years, and it's just like it's that family. We're out there, and this is the place we want to be. This is fun, and it makes sense to be here, and it makes sense to be together, and just to communicate our friendship with each other, our communication with each other to that audience, and the joy that we have in doing the music that we do is it's a powerful thing.
And I think one thing that I was trying to explain, but I guess you've come to understand over the last few years, is just how amazing that those first 6 months were, when we went to South Korea and we sang at the Olympic Stadium and at the DMZ, where we went on an extended concert tour of Japan, also went to Taiwan and to Hong Kong. We sang at Bob Flick's celebrity wedding to Lonnie Anderson. Mm-hmm. We also celebrated Bob's 70th birthday at Port Ludlow. And I guess I'd maybe just talk for a minute about those first months.
Well, it was amazing to me. We sang that first shaking, quivering concert at Trinity Lutheran, and 6 days later we were on the plane over to Korea, and that experience of just wandering off into that unknown for me, and literally getting directions for different pieces as we walked along through that, and having that experience, traveling with not only this group, but then joining with these other people who I had listened to and watched perform from afar for years, to be able to just stand alongside them and sing and talk about this whole experience and relive some of those days. It was a magical time, and to be able to include Deb into part of that as we went to Japan was just delightful. And it certainly seemed like I could imagine road trips that were not quite of that
Yes.
experience level.
Right.
And I was just so enjoying all of the details, every bit of it, watching the people as they prepared for the show and set up the sound and getting on stage and the sound checks, and it was just all fascinating and wonderful. And then to come right down to the end and have that all kind of sifted together into a performance on stage in front of a crowd that was there to hear and remember and enjoy. It was just delightful. It's such a wonderful, busy but wonderful 6 months. It was truly amazing.
Yeah, amazing. And the people that you're talking about included Judy Collins and Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and Don McLean and Donovan, and Melanie, who was very instrumental in bringing all the groups up to the DMZ, where we all sang songs for peace in the only divided province in the whole world, singing from South Korea across into North Korea. And again, beginning over 40 years ago, that was maybe one of the richest experiences I've had singing songs and making music.
Standing in front of that bombed out hulk of a building up in the DMZ, singing Where Have All the Flowers Gone, to a group of South Korean soldiers and farmers who go by day and farm in the DMZ and check out at night. It's an enduring memory and a picture that I will never forget, having driven up there through the razor wire and the remaining landmines to this place, and having that experience with those other people. It was just delightful. It was amazing.
It's been my delight to make music at Trinity and to make music with your son, who seems to be finding his way with music, and I believe will be a lifetime musician. And you grew up in a family, your brothers and your sisters, all singers, all musicians, and your dad played a significant role in making that a wonderful part of your family and your family's life. I guess I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about that kind of lineage.
Well, there was no time in our family that music didn't take a prominent place. We grew up singing. My brother and some of my brothers and sister were older by several years, and one was off in the Army when I was a young kid, and I grew up at 4 and 5 singing songs into a reel-to-reel tape recorder and sending them off when I was 4, sending them off to the Army when he was stationed overseas. Wow. And we sang. Dad played for many things. He had a book dedicated to him when he retired from Rotary, because he was their musician for 30 years or something like that, that had just kind of kept that piece rolling in the club. And his playing all over town, and certainly with our family, was a huge part of who we were. We revolved around music. We would be at parties and he would play. He played at the governor's mansion for parties that Dan Evans would have in Olympia. And it was just something that all of us kind of took on, whether we knew it or not. And we had 5 kids, and they all sang, and some of us played instruments. 2 of us have really, well, 3 of us really have carried it on. 2 of us have done it professionally. And but we still sing to this day. And Kai, at 15, the oldest of our 3, he was listening to concerts, and we were singing to him before he was born, actually. And he plays many instruments at this point and absolutely has a passion for it.
Boy, I guess.
He loves to play, he loves to sing, he wants to be a songwriter at some level, and he's at that place in his life where he's trying to figure out which of those pieces fit the best, but it's not a question of whether some of those pieces will fit, it's just which ones and how, and how fast he can get to the next instrument and the next song.
Wow.
Because he loves it.
And when we were talking last night, you had mentioned a song by Dan Fogelberg that has been one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, the leader of the band, and I was probably in my early years of college when I first heard that song that Dan Fogelberg had written, and I sang it some and started to figure out the pieces. My father was a musician, but he couldn't stay away, but he could never do it as a profession. He made his money doing other things and did music whenever he could. But my brother went off to Colorado, and I was doing music in other places, and it really was that lineage, that sense of family involvement in all of this music that was so powerful. My mother loved music and played piano some, but she said that her role really was, someone has to be the audience, and that's really my role. But she loved that part as well, and loved to hear us sing and play, and to be part of that person following the leader of the band is a special place for me to be. And I think it's just the knowledge of that 50 years of music that my dad had done before I was born.
Sure.
That I'm kind of following in that place. There's some connection in there that I can't necessarily grasp or put my hands on, but I know it's had a big impact on who I am and what I do.
Wonderful. Yeah, a lot of legacy. And there's one thing about the Brothers Four that seems pertinent to what you had just said, and that is that when the group started out, each individual was pretty strong-willed and had a strong personality and and brought a lot of their own strengths. But what made the group so lasting was the fact that the group was always bigger and more important than the sum of its parts. And I guess first of all, would like to thank you for being such an important part of bringing that spirit back to the group at this time.
You know, when I joined in 2008, and I stepped into this, what I knew was a nearly 50-year-long tradition at that point, to watch the interactions between the three of you and try to figure out, you know, where my place was in that little quartet, and just understand that they were three strong individuals, very distinct people, and I was one more distinct individual that fit into that family. And it really was that understanding that when we're here, this is the Brothers Four. This is what we do. And when we take off, we do all these other things. But coming together to sing, there's just that sense of magic that happened when that was the personality we took on. This was the Brothers Four, and that family experience. It was great.
Been great, and I want to say how wonderful it is to call you brother.
It's been wonderful, and I will continue to be.
Great.
Thanks, Mark.
You bet, Karl.